viewers, and welcome to Intervlog, your window into Africa's evolving political realities, where we explore the facts, unpack the rumors, and make sense of the headlines shaping our world. Today, we turn our focus to a sensitive and intriguing development in Nigeria, the alleged coup plot that reportedly targeted President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration. It's a story that has sparked conversation across the country and beyond. At the center of it all stands the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, the man who, in theory, could have become Nigeria's next leader if the alleged coup had succeeded. Now, let's be clear from the start. This is not a story of endorsement or accusation. It's an exploration, factual, historical, and analytical, of what could have happened, and what this episode tells us about the balance between democracy and the military in Nigeria. Reports first surfaced through Sahara reporters and several independent media outlets. According to these accounts, Nigeria's Defense Intelligence Agency, the DIA, uncovered a secret plot to overthrow President Tinubu. At least 16 senior military officers, ranging from captains to brigadier generals, were reportedly arrested in connection with the alleged plan. While official military statements described their detention as a routine disciplinary measure, sources within the intelligence hierarchy claimed otherwise, insisting that this was, in fact, a foiled coup attempt. These reports suggested that the conspirators planned to strike on October 1st, Nigeria's Independence Day, during what was expected to be a national parade. Their alleged goal: to remove President Tinubu, dissolve democratic institutions, and install a military-led government. If that had happened, if such a plot had succeeded, then General Christopher Musa, Nigeria's Chief of Defense Staff, would have stood as the most senior military figure in the chain of command. And historically, that position often translates into the leadership seat in times of military takeovers. To understand why such a possibility attracts public attention, we must revisit Nigeria's complex relationship with military rule. Since independence in 1960, Nigeria has experienced 5 successful coups and several failed attempts. In January 1966, Major General Johnson Aguiyi Ironsi became head of state after a group of young officers overthrew Prime Minister Tafawa Balewa's civilian government. In December 1983, Major General Muhammadu Buhari seized power from President Shehu Shagari, citing corruption and mismanagement. In 1993, General Sani Abacha took control from the interim government of Chief Ernest Shonekan, marking yet another abrupt end to civilian rule. Each of these transitions shared a familiar pattern. The military justified its intervention as an act to rescue the nation, only for the cycle of authoritarian rule and suppression to follow. So, in that historical context, the question many Nigerians are quietly asking today is this: if the alleged coup had succeeded, would history have repeated itself? Who is General Christopher Musa? To answer that, we first need to understand who General Musa is. General Christopher Gwaban Musa was appointed as Nigeria's Chief of Defense Staff in June 2023 by President Bola Tinubu. He is known within military circles as a disciplined, strategic, and professional officer, a man shaped by decades of service in Nigeria's troubled northeast, where he led operations against Boko Haram insurgents. He has spoken repeatedly about loyalty to the Constitution and the duty of the armed forces to protect democracy. In February 2024, he publicly stated, "We will protect democracy. Nothing like a coup will happen." That statement was clear and unambiguous. It reaffirmed the position of the Nigerian military that the era of coups is over, and that any attempt to return to authoritarianism would be unacceptable. Still, speculation continues, because in the logic of military hierarchy, if the unexpected ever happened, the Chief of Defense Staff remains the highest-ranking officer in the armed forces. And that's where this story meets both imagination and history. What if the coup had succeeded? Let's imagine, purely hypothetically, what would have followed if the alleged coup had succeeded. Nigeria's constitution would have been suspended, the National Assembly dissolved, the judiciary effectively paralyzed. ECOWAS, the African Union, and the United Nations would have swiftly condemned the action. Nigeria could have faced sanctions, isolation, and possibly border closures by neighboring states. And within that uncertain environment, General Christopher Musa, as Chief of Defense Staff, could logically have become the country's de facto leader. That's not because he planned it. There's no evidence to support such an idea. But because history shows that the person in that position typically assumes control in times of abrupt power transition, just as General Ironsi did in 1966, just as General Buhari did in 1983, just as General Abacha did in 1993. The pattern is consistent. Intervlog pigeon. Moment. Now where dem dey cook yam, person go know whether he go sweet or burn. Meaning, you can only tell the outcome of an action when it begins. This parable reminds us that power struggles always carry unpredictable consequences. If a coup had taken place, Nigeria might have entered another unpredictable chapter, one that could have set back years of democratic progress. Official denials and statements. Following the reports, the defense headquarters moved quickly to clarify. Brigadier General Tukur Gusau, Director of Defense Information, issued a carefully worded statement. A routine military exercise has resulted in the arrest of 16 officers over issues of indiscipline and breach of service regulations. He stressed that preliminary investigations linked their grievances to stalled career progress and pending disciplinary actions, not to any political plot. That was the official line. But behind the scenes, anonymous sources within the Defense Intelligence Agency told journalists that the arrests were indeed connected to a foiled coup. This contradiction between the official version and the insider account left Nigerians divided. Some saw it as evidence of government cover-up. Others dismissed it as mere rumor, amplified by sensational media. Whatever the truth, the situation underscored one thing. Nigeria's democracy remains fragile, and its institutions are constantly tested. The opposition's reaction, ADC's statement. In the aftermath, the African Democratic Congress, ADC, released a strong statement urging the government to address the public directly about the alleged coup plot. The ADC said it takes any threat to Nigeria's democracy seriously, but also warned against using such allegations as political weapons. Their spokesperson, Malam Balaji Abdullahi, noted, "We oppose any effort to undermine Nigeria's constitutional order, but we are equally concerned about the potential misuse of such allegations to justify political witch hunts or suppress dissent." The party called for transparency, urging the government to either confirm or dismiss the reports decisively. They also criticized what they called conflicting signals from official sources, arguing that such confusion could be politically engineered to divert public attention from pressing national challenges. The message from the ADC was simple. Let truth, not fear, guide the narrative. Intervlog. Pigeon. Moment. Person way they chase two rats, fit lose both. Meaning, a government that fights rumors and opposition at the same time risks losing focus on real governance. In other words, the government must balance national security with public transparency. The bigger picture, democracy and military in 21st century Nigeria. Nigeria's democracy, like many across Africa, is still maturing. Since 1999, the country has enjoyed more than 2 decades of uninterrupted civilian rule, its longest in history. But the temptation of military intervention has never fully disappeared. In 2021, Mali, Guinea, and Burkina Faso all witnessed coups. In 2023, Niger's elected government was toppled by soldiers. Each time, ECOWAS condemned the action and called for a return to constitutional rule. In this regional context, rumors of a coup in Nigeria carry regional and global significance. If the continent's largest democracy were ever to fall into military hands again, it would send shockwaves across Africa and the world. That's why the Defense Headquarters has repeatedly emphasized loyalty to President Tinubu and to the Constitution. General Musa himself has said that the Nigerian military will never engage in unconstitutional change of government. Nigeria's past coups often began with whispers, quiet meetings, small discontent within the ranks, and perceived corruption among political leaders. But each time, the outcome was the same. The promise of salvation through force eventually gave way to repression and stagnation. Intervlog pigeon moment. Goat way say you want learn how to dance. Na for firewood kitchen you go no say heat no be playmate. Across social media, Nigerians reacted in mixed tones. Some dismissed the news as another politically motivated rumor. Others expressed real concern, asking whether the armed forces might be growing restless under civilian leadership. Many Nigerians still carry the memories of past military regimes, restrictions on free speech, human rights abuses, and economic uncertainty. For them, even the mention of a coup evokes fear, not nostalgia. In markets, bus parks, and online discussions, one question stood out. Why would anyone want to return Nigeria to those days? For President Tinubu, the alleged coup plot represents both a test and an opportunity. A test, because it challenges his administration's ability to maintain unity within the security establishment. An opportunity, because it allows him to reaffirm Nigeria's commitment to democracy and to strengthen public confidence in state institutions. The government's next steps, whether through transparency or silence, will shape public trust in the coming months. What this means for General Musa. For General Christopher Musa, this episode reinforces both his prominence and his responsibility. His name now appears in public discussions not because of personal ambition, but because of the symbolic weight of his position. He represents the bridge between Nigeria's military power and its democratic order. How he continues to navigate that space with discipline and integrity will define his legacy. Inter-vlog Pigeon. Moment. If lion, no roar. The forest still no say a day. Meaning, true power doesn't always need to show itself. Restraint can be strength. Musa's restraint, professionalism, and loyalty to constitutional authority will remain key to preserving Nigeria's fragile stability. International perspective. From an international perspective, Nigeria's stability matters immensely. It is West Africa's largest economy, Africa's most populous country, and a central player in regional peacekeeping. Any disruption to its democratic continuity would trigger alarm across the African Union, the United Nations, and key global partners. Already, ECOWAS is under pressure following coups in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. A similar event in Nigeria would risk collapsing the bloc's credibility altogether. That's why, for now, every reassurance from the Nigerian military carries global weight. Analysts warn that while the government must protect itself from real threats, it should also avoid using the coup narrative to suppress dissent or target political opponents. Balancing national security with political tolerance is a delicate act. Too much secrecy breeds suspicion. Too much force invites resistance. Transparency, communication, and respect for the rule of law are the antidote.